The other day, I sat in my office and I was exhausted. I was asking myself, why does this feel different? My body hurt, my mind hurt. I was running on E. And a soft voice whispered, whispered to me and said, because you're doing everything. Because you're doing everything. In this episode of the Sneaker Principle Podcast, we're going to talk about decentralizing leadership in your school. Let's go ahead and start.
When they see me, they know that every day when I'm breathing, it's for us to go farther. You know, every time I speak, I want the truth to come out. You know what I'm saying? Every time I speak, I want to shiver. You know, I don't want them to be like, they know what I'm going to say because it's polite. They know what I'm going to say. And even if I get in trouble, you know what I'm saying? Ain't that what we're supposed to do? I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us. We might not be the ones, but let's not be selfish, and because we're not going to change the world, let's not talk about how we should change it. I don't know how to change it, but I know if I keep talking about how dirty it is out here, somebody's going to clean it up.
And now he's been promoted. His job, principal.
What's going on, everyone? This is Uchain Joku, Sneaker Principal. And in this episode, we're going to talk about something that is essential. And I'll be honest with you, it's something that a lot of school leaders struggle with, even the great ones. But however, those who are extremely successful have mastered this. And I've made it part of their philosophy in leadership. And this is nothing new. This is nothing that's like revolutionary, but however, it's something that's essential. And I'm doing my best moving forward to utilize my notes, so I'm not just like running off the top of my head and repeating myself. So decentralizing school leadership. And what I mean by this is you have a school, you have the principal, and the typical structure of that leadership hierarchy is you have the principal, that one person, and they kind of oversee everything. And maybe you might have an assistant principal or a few of them, and they now, assist you in overseeing everything. And the problem with that is if you are a new leader or you're a leader who is a little OCD, excuse me, or a lot OCD, you have to know everything that's happening. And by you knowing everything that's happening, which you should know everything that's happening, I'm not saying that you should be ignorant about what's happening in school in any capacity. But if it is your voice that's consistently in all these spaces, the guidance counselors, special education, parental outreach, what's happening in the cafeteria as far as the meals for the week or the day, all these different places, custodial staff. What happens is all those people now rely on you to be the voice that they will listen to. And some of you might disagree with this, but just ride with me on this. Maybe it's just my experience, but if you're a school leader, have you ever had this kind of day? You're driving to work, you're going through all the things you need to do that day. If you're those of you who are better than that and spend the night before you take your notes and you do your to-do list, you have those things that you're like, okay, these are the things that have to be done. So you plan it out. You walk into the building and you say, okay, I'm going to walk in. I'm going to do morning arrivals. Then from there, I'm going to grab my notebook. I'm going to go to my first observation. After my first observation, I'm going to do like 2 or 3 more observations. Then, from there, I'm going to take a district call and I'm going to do this and that, and everything's scheduled, right? However, that's not what happens. You walk in and you have a parent who's waiting to see you. And now that situation could be a big thing or a small thing. but no matter what, it knocks you off your schedule. But you must handle that. Then after that, you have somebody from, let's say, the guidance team that says, hey, we got this call from ACS, blah, 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 blah. What do you want us to do? And for those of you who are not familiar with what ACS is our version of Child Protective Services. And you're like, okay, this is an important matter, so let me jump in support with that. And then, you have a teacher who's now like, upset because XYZ happened, and you need to address this because it's part of your staff morale, so you're doing that. Before you know it, it's 2:00, and you're sitting there like, what just happened? My whole entire day went by me. And it's even worse when a lot of these things are being brought to you by your leadership team. So your teacher leaders, your assistant principals, they're bringing all these things to you, and no one is taking the initiative to make a decision. They will not move until you, the individual, say, this is what should be done. But when you look back, you're like, wait a minute, but they know what should be done. We've been working together for years. They're experts at what they do. But however, because leadership is centralized, with you being the tip of the sword, no one moves unless you move. Which now happens to create a situation where nothing really moves. Or if things are moving, they're moving really, really slowly because there's an extra step before decisions are made. And that extra step is you. And again, yes, there are certain things that you have to make that decision, hands down, without a doubt. But however, let's say, for example, you walk in and that parent who showed up, maybe your school could have had a structure that when they come in, depending on what the issue is, if it's something having to do with, let's say, an issue with instruction, maybe your assistant principal of instruction is the one who's meeting with them to deal with that situation. If it's something having to do with maybe a guidance issue, maybe that child's guidance counselor, the person who's meeting with that parent. Rather than the parent coming to you, then you're now, saying, okay, I heard you, let me bring so-and-so in to support you in this, but this is the person who's handling that. You know what I'm saying? So you have the extra step because now it's explained to you, you got to go find another person, and it's explained to them, then you do a handoff, and, you've lost 20, 30, 45 minutes, and it just happens all throughout the day. And I know there's this belief that leadership is being ever present in every situation, but it's not effective leadership. There's this thing called distributive leadership, and that's what I'm saying. When everything's centralized rather than being decentralized, meaning that there's other people in there that you've empowered, they've been trained, and they know what to do, and they also know when the matter is of such urgency or of such importance that you have to be involved. And that's something that can be established, relatively easily. Like, hey, if it's this issues, call me into those meetings. Or if it's something where you're stuck on and the assistant principal, whoever cannot support you, they bring me in, but empowering people to do their jobs. And that's what I'm talking about here. So I just laid the groundworks, right, for this for this conversation or this podcast episode. Excuse me. So now let's talk about the power of empowered assistant principals. So assistant principals play a crucial role in the school's success. There's no doubt about that. However, often I was assistant principal, and I can attest to this. They find themselves stuck in disciplinary roles, handling operational tasks with very little room for strategic input. They're literally, the school's butler, the school's, the principal's goon. They don't move unless the principal says move. And I feel like that is such a waste of talent and capacity. There's a reason the role is called assistant principal, because the training the principal went through to become a principal is the exact same training that an assistant principal goes through to become an assistant principal. So with that being said, why not create a situation where as a principal, you're empowering your APs to be part of you? So I've told my principal and I'm sorry, my assistant principal, that we are a two-headed, four-armed, four-legged principal. He has the authority to act on my behalf on pretty much everything. And we're able to do that because he and I are in constant dialogue. If it's me driving and something pops in my head, I give him a call. Hey, I was thinking about this. What do you think about this? I make very few decisions without him being part of the conversation and him having input in that decision making process. And yes, there's certain things where there's no question I have to make a decision. I have to make that executive decision. But even when I make those executive decisions, I try my best to loop him in before I push the button and say the decision's been made. Or if it was a situation where I had no choice to make that decision immediately, then he's copied in those emails. I have a conversation. Hey, just letting you know this is what happened. This is why it happened. And, I just want you to make sure you're in the loop because if I'm not here, you know what's going on. And again, that's how you empower principals. This is how you empower assistant principals. And by doing that, the pressure's off your back by tons because now, listen, if you try to carry the whole world by yourself, ooh, that's a lot. But if you got two of you, sharing that load, it becomes much easier. And your capacity for thinking and doing those other things becomes so much like I said, it just becomes so much easier. Those of you who know me personally, and I say this all the time, I was fortunate enough early in my career to have principals, actually two principals back to back, who empowered me. When I first became a dean, Scott, who was my first principal, he was like, as long as there's no surprises, rock on. As long as you're following the chancellor's regulations and the rules and everything else, rock on. If you're stuck in something that you're not clear about, let me know. If you make any mistakes, it's okay, because it's better to fix a mistake than to make no movement and then we have a disaster. And I was like, okay. And because I was given that leeway, I didn't just go out and beast. I was very thoughtful of what I was doing because I knew I was representing my principal. I knew that whatever I said and whatever I did had a direct connection to the function of the school under his leadership. I was his mouthpiece. I was moving within the same steps of vision of the mission and vision of the school according to my principal. And literally by doing what I did, I took off a huge load off his plate. I was handling the school culture, the discipline, supporting teachers with classroom management, so he can do the stuff he needs to do around instruction. Before I got there, he was doing everything himself. He empowered me to be, his right-hand man in that space. Then my second principal, who took this and took what Scott did and put on steroids. John said, listen, you're going to come and be my dean. A year later, he was like, I think you have the makings of a school leader. So I'm going to open the vaults and you're going to be part of my leadership, like truly my leadership. So you're going to run. And it's funny because at the time I thought, man, this is a lot. But he gave me the ability to be who I am today. I was the dean. Eventually I became assistant principal. I was running the math department. I was special education coordinator. I ran the science department. And I was doing all these different things. But then eventually I was supporting the parent coordinator in her work, and it was like, he was like, here are the things I'm training you how to do. Again, but it was funny. He had the same expectation that Scott did. No surprises. We're talking, we're engaging, we're having conversations. And so he was always aware. But however, I cleared a huge portion of the load for him so he can do the school building things, the community outreach, to bring the resources in, And it was funny because, joking back then, a lot of parents thought I was the principal. And it's funny because some people will hear that, but like, he wasn't doing it. No, he was doing a lot. But however, he empowered me to be able to support him in his work. And that was my training ground towards becoming a principal. When I became a principal, there was literally very, very little that rattled me, because I was like, I've already been in that space. I've been part of those deeper conversations. I've been part of those decision-making processes that move the school forward, because, I was allowed to be part of a two-headed, or in that particular case with John, a three-headed, six-armed, six-leg principal. But it was myself and another great school leader, Max. So we were the three of us together, And again, my principal was my principal. That didn't change. He was the head, but we were the extension. We were extensions of him. And so think about that. It's very important. Some of you might say, well, my sister principal is young, or they're weak, or all excuses. But the thing is this: people don't move until they're moved. You have to, redistribute responsibilities, empower your APs or your vice principals, and also, exercise discretion. Maybe there's certain things that without a doubt, if this is messed up, this is truly on me. I have to be the one, But what about all the other things that literally, come on now, does the cafeteria lady or a man have to come to you with everything? Can that be sent to your assistant principal, who can now make decisions, or come to you at a little point so you can get through your day? Are there certain things that can be handled by certain people who already have expertise in those areas, so that all they have to do is inform you of what's happening and what they're doing, and you can give them feedback and let them keep moving, so you have the space and time to do that, and these are the things that a lot of us school leaders are dropping the ball on. We're overwhelmed, we're burnt out, and it's because we're doing everything. And I think a lot of it has to do, like with my last episode when I talked about fear. We're afraid of letting go. We're afraid that if things get messed up, I'd rather it would have had it been my fault than somebody messing it up. But if you're breaking down and things are still getting messed up because you're overwhelmed, then what's the point? And now the next tier of distributive leadership, as far as who you can distribute to, are your teacher leaders. Again, my foray into leadership started with me as a teacher. I was a teacher, and Scott said, "Hey, you're going to be my dean." And a dean is a pedagogue. It's a pedagogical role. It's not an administrative role. It's just quasi-administrative, because yes, the work and the paperwork and everything has to be done. It's very administrative. But however, the dean is really a teacher, and is really a teacher leader. So when you have teacher leaders, and they're not just deans, you have teacher leaders who might be, team leads or instructional coaches or whatever the case may be, seeing what are their expertise. Like, for example, being a special education coordinator, parents would come in with questions about special education or whatever the case may be, and I would step into that role. I was the expert, so I would step into that role, talk out and support. I would support the parent. If it was a question for the school psychologist, I would facilitate that meeting. If it was something having to do in the classroom with a particular teacher, I'll help support and facilitate that meeting. Now, if it was something that was above my pay grade, something that was so much more serious, then I would bring the principal in. Or if there's a situation where the parent refused to allow me to support them with whatever the issue was, then that's different. Okay, yes, I have to bring the principal into this. But that was rare. That was rare. Most people just want a response to their questions in a timely manner, and they don't want to feel like they're being ran around. And I'll tell you this, sometimes as a principal, we make this decision because we want to hear what's going on and we want to be part of it. Then what ends up happening is, by the time the parent or whoever talks to us, they would bring the other person in, who's the expert, and then have everything re-explained again. That is not efficient. That is annoying. It's annoying to the parent. It's annoying to me, as I'm sitting there thinking like, damn, I probably should have brought this person into this conversation much earlier, so things would be more efficient. So teacher leaders are very important, And again, when you look at your team, you ask yourself, you ask yourself as well, who are the teachers who have the capacity and they want to do more? They want to be part of the movement of the school. Then you recruit them, you bring them in, and you give them those smaller tasks that you don't really have to be the one to do. Like a great example. I know principals who spent their whole entire time planning field trips and doing that and doing this, and I'm like, but why? Because all you have to do is approve it, meaning that all the work has been done. So you just are signing off saying, okay, everything's been done. This trip is good to go. Why are you the one doing all that? And again, I know for a fact people who are that OCD that they have to be the ones to do out the whole entire thing because I don't want to get messed up. No, that's why you review the work that's been done. If there's an issue, say, hey, fix this, get this information, and you get it done. And a teacher leader can do that. You could have a coordinator for student activities who's a teacher that you might pay them in New York we call it per session, or they might, maybe wherever you are, it might be voluntary. I don't know, maybe something a part of their schedule during the day. Who can do that? So that's something, and then as they do more and more of it, they become an expert. And guess what? That's something that you don't ever have to worry about because you know whoever's taking care of it got that. So again, these are things that can be done to decentralize leadership, to engage in distributive leadership, empowering your assistant principals, empowering your teachers, and again, I'm going to reiterate about teacher leaders. They are literally hidden gems in our schools. They're the ones in the trenches. They're deeply connected with the students, and they have invaluable insight. But often we just they're teachers, so they're not administrators. But if you tap into them, you find solutions to a lot of things that makes your life so much easier if you just allow for more people to be part of the decision-making process. Of course, with understanding that the final call is yours, but again, you don't have to do it all by yourself. So, what are the challenges? There are challenges in doing this. Change isn't easy. If you're a leader who's all about centralizing your power, your authority, is not easy moving towards a decentralized model. And a lot of the issues in doing so comes from you. You trusting, first of all, you overcoming your fears of what can go wrong. You trusting or building the trust in your team, because when you do this, you have to actually create a team. And this team has to understand that you trust them, that you're willing to invest in them, and you also appreciate what they're doing, in support of the school. So that's the one. That's something to make sure you're aware of in making this transition towards decentralizing your leadership and engaging in distributive leadership. Now, let me give you a strategy. Once I have all my teams, like I have certain people who are running certain things, one of the things that I do is this. I meet with them. I meet with them consistently. My assistant principal, I meet with almost every day, and we're talking about a 15-minute meeting, in the morning. It might be in the afternoon, depending on that day or what's on the schedule, but we will meet. Or it might be me in the car driving in a conversation. Hey, what's going on for today? What are the things we have to talk about? Okay. But then I also meet with all my other team members. My special ed coordinator, I'm meeting with you. My COSA, my coordinator of student activities, we meet once a week. If there are multiple things happening that week, we might meet twice a week. But we're talking about 15-minute meetings, like just updates, what's going on. We're not talking about long, protracted meetings. No, we're just talking about those touch points. But what this allows me to do is those things that have taken me hours and hours to accomplish, no, they're now 10, 15 minute, 10, 15 minute touch points throughout the day or week. That allows me so much more time to engage in my primary responsibility, being in those classrooms, supporting teachers, making sure that I'm able to engage with our partners and get the resources into the school, all the things that are needed to make sure that we are winning as a school community. So just remember this. The goal is to create a more responsive, dynamic, and inclusive leadership structure. Again, a more responsive and dynamic and inclusive leadership structure. Because one of the outcomes of this, believe it or not, when you engage in something like this, you're literally building leaders, the future leaders. If Scott hadn't done what he had done and said, "You're gonna be my dean. I'm going to give you the support and training to be excellent at what you do, so that you can make those decisions." If John hadn't done something for me, I would not now be where I'm at right now, a 3-time principal, 3 different schools, and loving what I do, and also supporting other leaders as well, and also building out the leaders at my school as well. I'm gonna tell you right now, the first thing that I did when I got to MS224 is identify who are the leaders here, who are the ones who have the potential to one day do what I do. Okay, even if that's not what they want to do, but I gotta look for that, because leaders have certain qualities about them that mirror that I believe if you're a good leader, they mirror what you believe leadership is. So for me, at least what I believe leadership is. So for me, going to my school, I was looking for people who are just like me, who wanted to do more, who had something to say, who believed in the school community and were like, I want to be part of, moving the school forward. And I elevated them. I said, listen, you're gonna support me in this, you're gonna support me with that, you're gonna support me with this. And it's been a good thing. But also the challenges with that is you gotta develop them. It's not a, hey, you're doing this, now you walk away and everything's gonna be perfect. No, it also requires now that you're investing time, meeting with them, you're supporting them, you're growing them, you're giving them insights, you're showing them how to do certain things, you're being patient when they mess up, and you're being honest with them and saying, hey, this could be handled differently. And when balls are dropped, you're willing to have those difficult conversations, because these are all the things that hopefully as a leader you've gone through yourself. You gotta give that to them, and hopefully down the road they become these dynamic leaders themselves, and you now have a space as the years go by where you have this flow happening through your school, and that's the goal, to have that flow. Yeah. So today we've covered a lot, but this is just the beginning. The journey towards decentralizing your leadership is ongoing. Like, it's like something that you got to keep practicing. You got to keep revisiting. But however, in the long run, the rewards are all worth it. I'm telling you, and I'll tell you right now, where I'm at, about to be 6 months in at my school, the school I have right now, I'm going through growing pains. Everybody's learning. Everybody is learning how to do the work, as part of a team. And, but again, I believe that the end result, a year from now, 2 years from now, is going to be a dynamic space where everybody just knows, okay, this is the part I'm playing. This is what I need to do. And this is how I fit into the greater vision. And not only that, this is how I'm supporting the growth of an incredible school. Yeah, that's it for today. So don't forget to subscribe, share this content. Listen, ask your questions. Let me know what you think, and also give me feedback. Maybe what I'm saying is complete nonsense, or maybe I missed something. But this space is really about creating an opportunity for me to share my personal insights as a school leader, but also hopefully learn from you as well. Because I don't have all the answers by any means. I'll tell you right now. I tell people all the time, I'm the dumbest person in the room, and I have to be, because if I'm the dumbest person in the room and I recognize it, I'm self-aware about it. Guess what I'm doing always? I'm learning. I'm getting better. I'm getting better and better and better. But I have no illusions that I will ever reach to the point of being perfect. That's why I stay being the dumbest person in the room, learning. Yeah. So again, thank you. If you're ever interested in talking to me about whatever you might be going through, feel free to send me a message on direct message me, or leave a comment, whatever the case is. I'm always here to support. I've been fortunate enough that I can say I have school leaders around the country who reach out to me and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And in doing that, I'm always learning myself, like, ooh, that was a good one, you know, and I'm learning and I'm growing myself as well. So, yeah, let me stop talking. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I hope this was, you know, beneficial to someone. With that being said, I already said it, have an amazing rest of your day. Be well.